everyone. Welcome to Greylock Elementary School. I'm Dr. Barbara Malkus. I'm the Superintendent of Schools. Joining me this evening, very Honorable Mayor Maxey.
Hey everyone.
Our owner's project manager, Tim Alex.
Hello, good evening.
And a member of our design team and lead designer, Jesse Saylor. We're really here tonight to answer your questions. I'm also being joined by members of my team, Dr. Tim Callahan, Assistant Superintendent, Emily Schiavone, Community Outreach Coordinator, Mr. Thomas Simon, Director of Student Support Services, one of many jacks of all trade in our district. He also is handling the technology for us this evening, and Mr. Robert Flaherty, who is our Director of Facilities. So again, all of us are here this evening to really ensure that you are getting your questions answered with respect to various aspects of this project. What we're going to do, originally we're going to do a presentation and then do the tours. At the mayor's request, we are going to do the tours first. And so what I'm going to ask is if you want a tour, if you don't want to have a tour, you're more than welcome to stay right here and relax. If you would like to have a tour, I'm going to ask that you line up at that back exit door, and we will take people out in groups of 10. So get up, stretch your legs, make your way to the back of the cafeteria.
You'll follow Dr. Callahan. Oh my goodness.
Your way down. All right.
Oh my God, let's
Next time, but last time you were about that tall.
I'm not speaking.
Okay.
Hey, did you just
Next one, but that's
You guys got this game. Hi, Brian. How you doing, Pete? Good.
Keep moving on, check out
you know, the Sullivan School kids felt the same way. Yep. And then you should see, I went through that. Their faces.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
You will. Thank you.
Such a beautiful. Data drops.
We all have our tables and desks. Remember, we bring our chairs out in front of our desks. Yeah. And we have stuff like that.
Playground equipment out here, cleaning them all, stripping them all down, and that kind of stuff. So, the lady club was all stuff. No, so where part of the building is now.
This was really good candy food. So we're actually breaking it all down anyway. Got to be torn down and rebuilt.
No. Oh, cool. When did he end up retiring?
I don't know, he was here when I was here, because he took us on a 40-day trip, and said he was here
little, when we were growing up.
That's where I was this afternoon, spoiling that.
Good to see you.
Fancy.
I watched this YouTube stream for at the nurses.
Thank you everyone for your patience, and I know it's a little hot this evening, so you're getting the full Greylock effect. And so we have a brief presentation on what the new school design looks like. Just to kind of give you some background, a statement of interest for Greylock Elementary School was originally submitted in 2010. When I came on board in 2016, after the work that was done on the Coldgrove project, the mayor at that time, Mayor Alcombright, said to me, whatever you do, don't forget about Greylock. You have to continue to submit a statement of interest. So working with the school committee and the city council at that time, we did do the application to submit for a statement of interest. It was screened in December of 2019. So the following few months after being screened in from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, the school building committee was formed, and since that time, they have been working through the very prescribed Massachusetts School Building Authority process. So Jesse, would you like to get us started on this presentation?
Sure. Thank you, Superintendent Malkus. Would you advance the slides a little bit? Another one. Good. There we go. That's good. Thanks. Well, good evening, everyone. Dr. Malkus was just going through the process, and she brought us up to December 2019 when there was the original statement of interest submitted to the MSBA. And since that point, the process has taken years. That was 2019. And it's been very public. We've had a lot of involvement. It began with visioning meetings, which involved members of the district as well as parents and members of the community were part of that. And out of that came a vision of the educational plan for the new Greylock School. Also, as Dr. Malkus mentioned, the school committee and the school building committee have looked at the project and voted in support of first changing to grade span schools and then to select the preferred option. We've had community and stakeholder engagement meetings throughout the process. You can see a couple identified there in July and September of 2023. And then there were also working group meetings that pulled in sort of stakeholders. We have the fire department, the police, first responders looking at the project in terms of security, and other town representatives that need to be part of the process. And then most recently at the state level, the MSBA voted in favor of the project and in favor of supporting it with a $42 million grant. So that kind of brings us up to where we are now. That was June, and now we're looking forward to a town-wide vote in support of the project for it to proceed. So that's the process. I think we're going to skip through this, or do you want to take this, Barbara?
I will do quickly.
Yeah.
So as part of the process in our eligibility phase, we had to go through a very complex process with the MSBA in order to determine the projected enrollment for North Adams for our particular grade spans. And so that report was actually delivered to the school building committee in 2021. It used 20 years of prior data from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed, the Department of Public Health, the US Census, in order to create a 10-year projection. And so you can see when we think about enrollment in this district, we are seeing a very gradual decline over time. The difference is when you look at that bottom graph, the red line represents students in K through 6, and the greenish yellow line there represents grades 7 through 12. You can see that the steepest, the greatest decline in population is really at the older grades, and at the younger grades, it actually starts to level off based on their data analysis. This is a report directly from the Mass School Building Authority. So I do not expect you to be able to see that data. There's nothing wrong with your eyes. I just wanted you to know that this comes from a very big data table and a process, a projection process that is used by the MSBA. But the white represents the previous 20 years. The yellow there is their projection going forward into the next 10 years. Next slide. What is important to gather from that particular slide is that for K through 6, their projection is that we would have 625 students. That exceeds the building capacity for either Brayton, which has a square footage and building capacity of 449 students, and Colgrove, which has a square footage and building capacity for 420 students. So we're going to need 2 schools. The question became which were going to be the 2 schools. In addition, there are available seats outside of the project school. Those represent the seats for our pre-K. Through the comprehensive preschool partnership initiative that we have with Child Care of the Berkshires and Head Start, we have a very robust pre-K program. We have 6 classrooms of pre-K, and really, right now, I think we're close to waiting lists.
Actually, well, if you count Child Care of the Berkshires and Head Start, we're at 10 classrooms.
10 classrooms with our partners, 6 that we operate. The difference between 716 and 625, those seats, those 91 seats, are in fact the average enrollment for our pre-K. So what we're really looking to house pre-K through 6 is 716 students. Next slide. And then we also had to involve a large number of stakeholders that met over, I want to say it was 6 weeks. Am I correct on that? 6 weeks? For the education visioning,
That's about right.
to create our education plan. The education plan is very important in the eligibility phase because all aspects of the design have to be linked back to the educational plan goals. And we had it developed as part of the eligibility provision phase. It was approved by the MSBA and identified as an example of best practice in developing educational plans. They've actually asked us to use our plan developed here in North Adams as a model for other districts going through this process. And then, next slide. So what were the educational priorities? A universal design for learning. So recognizing that we now have students attending public education that require specialized programming and special considerations. Many of those special considerations benefit all students in their learning. Thus, implementing universal design for learning not only is a support for students who have special needs, but benefits all students academically. Social and emotional learning and supports, curriculum alignment, so that we have a very strong early elementary focus on skill development, application of those skills as they go into the upper elementary grades, and then a focus on college and career readiness as they go into the secondary grades. Emphasis on engaging instructional practices. One of the ways that we can encourage engagement is through arts integration. You'll see the acronym STEAM. That stands for science, technology, engineering, arts and mathematics, something that we are already implementing in the district that is seen as really very important for engaging our students in their own instruction and learning. Robust access and use of technology. While we recognize that there are some downsides to technology use, particularly for our young learners, this is the world that they are in. And so learning about technology and how to use it appropriately in their early lives is seen as a very important component to their overall education. And last, inclusion and support for our specialized special education programs, our substantially separate programs, where we are able to keep students in district, whether it's for social emotional disability or on the autism spectrum, so that they can then be integrated with their peers and have access to everything that we have to offer in the district. Do you want to take this, Jesse?
Okay. Also, the visioning identified some architectural priorities. Accessing outdoor space and seamless transition to the outside world is definitely a goal. Having natural light in the building, having a welcoming entry and educational spaces, but a secure learning environment. So this is allowing the community to get into the building without opening up all the academic spaces was a goal, so that it would be effective for community use, flexible in that way. Effective and efficient design that is flexible, elegant, and simple. Of course, we all want that. Collaborative learning spaces for students, teachers, and the community. These collaborative learning spaces get at some of the pedagogical ideas that the superintendent had just mentioned, the social emotional support that we need to provide, and reaching each student in a specific way relative to their preferred mode of learning. And then confidential meeting spaces, and that was more of a staff type meeting space. So if we keep going to the next slide, please. So let's talk about how the proposed building meets some of those goals that I just presented and that Dr. Malkus had just presented as we look at this walkthrough of the building and site. And the first thing I'd like you to see is that the building and site are organized with safety in mind as the top priority. You can see that the building is pulled back and the play areas that flank it on the left and the right are pulled away from the vehicular space because we want to have that separation. Also, the vehicular drives are separated for safety. You have a dedicated bus drop-off area which rings around the multi-use field, whereas the less controlled traffic, the parents and the cars dropping off at the building, you have a separate drop-off lane. And so that's something we always look for security. Also, we have now located the administration offices just inside the main entrance, and they view out to the entire campus, the vehicular campus, so that they can see whoever is approaching the building. Very different than in an older school like this, where administration offices are buried inside the middle of the school. This is the way schools are designed now. And then finally, I'll point out that the service area, instead of being right on the front of the school and crossing the sidewalk to get to the building, is tucked in the back of the building. It's out of sight. It's away from students and families. So it's safely located. Next slide, please.
Can you tell us, like, I don't have the visual imagination, but that parking lot, is it going to be the same parking lot? No.
Okay, so no. The building you're in now is essentially in the parking lot. And so the new building is in the existing parking lot. And so then this building will be torn down and the parking lot will be created here. Is that helpful?
Yeah, one more question on that. And what happens to the space south of the parking lot? And how far up?
Face
how far
south.
up to the,
You're saying
current
over,
side, over there, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a tree buffer there that remains. Maybe the site plan will be
better on the next slide.
the next slide. Yeah,
Okay.
right. So right, the property line is that orange line right there. So there's this buffer zone that remains between the parking lot and the residential properties that are on Barber Street. They also have the advantage of being uphill relative to the building location, so that, which helps. When you're downhill, you tend to see up into the light fixtures more, but being downhill, it's all happening down below. You look right over it. You have another question. I'll take another one, but I think I'll try to go through and answer questions towards the end. Is that okay?
Yeah, I just have another meeting to attend, so.
Well, go ahead then.
The quick question is, how close is that parking lot to Phelps Avenue?
To Phelps Avenue.
The main street of the school.
Yeah, no, I know which one. I'm trying to see if I could give you a dimension.
So this is the front wall of the school, is the front edge of the parking lot.
Thank you, that's a good way to guide it, yeah.
So effectively, that front edge there is far to the Phelps Avenue as it will be.
Okay, so just moving into the site plan, there are a number of opportunities in the design also to encourage students to engage in the natural world, which is one of the architectural priorities we mentioned. There is an area of raised planter beds, there's an outdoor classroom, the play areas that I mentioned previously, there's the courtyard of the building, and then the multi-use play field. Also, there's the Appalachian Trail running down Phelps Ave, which is another educational opportunity. The project also includes a kiosk at the southwest corner of the site to support the hiking community and to provide information about North Adams amenities. And the North Adams community will also benefit from the additional parking that's being provided in the project. There are more spaces here than you have now by about 40, which will support that Alcombright Athletic Complex, which is obviously existing just to the east. And then there's a new basketball court and pickleball courts, which are included as an ad alternate right now. Okay.
Jesse, as well as the kiosk for the ATV.
And we have the kiosk for the Appalachian Trail. That's right. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but where exactly is this kiosk going? It's going up there, right?
Yeah, we were saying like on the corner of the site near Barber. Is that? Okay. Great. Here's a view of the main entrance. Now that the building's pushed to the northern end of the site, the main entrance faces south, which is great, of course, for solar, warmth, heating. It'll be a sunlit space, and it's protected by the elements by the overhanging roof, which you see there. You have natural materials flanking the entrance. We call this a community porch because it's a space people will feel comfortable. It's a space we want you to slow down, socialize, chit-chat, those kinds of things. Next slide. And then after you enter the building, the lobby, the vestibule will send you into the main office to sign in, and then after you're checked for security, you move into the lobby, which is where this view is taken. You think of it as an extension of that community porch idea. It's a visual connecting space to the two levels of the school, and there are opportunities here for the school to present what's going on in the school. There's a screen as well as display cases to show student work. So it's a very warm and inviting feeling. We go to the next slide. This is the first floor plan. In this slide, the first thing you'll see is that the red spaces are the spaces that the community would typically use after hours. You have the gymnasium, the cafeteria, the performance platform possibly, the media center possibly, and the music room. And they're all located near the main entrance door, which is identified with the triangle at the bottom of the plan. This allows the school to open those spaces for community use without opening up all the classrooms that are on the left side of the plan and on the second floor. Also, you can see that the performance platform is located between the gymnasium and the cafeteria. That allows for flexibility in use. You can have a performance to either the gym or the cafeteria, depending on what size audience you need to present to, or also for the school, which is trying to manage its programming around the use of the platform. It can rehearse in either direction as it may need to. Also in this plan, I'll point out that the pre-K and kindergarten classrooms, which are on the first floor and on the left side of the plan, are organized into neighborhoods. What do I mean by that? Well, a neighborhood is the classrooms, the general ed classrooms, which you typically would think of, but you also have the small group instruction rooms, you have storage, you have breakout spaces in the corridors, and you have spaces dedicated to special services, all integrated into one neighborhood or small community. And of course, both have access to that courtyard that I mentioned earlier. It's a relatively simple plan, it's compact, but it achieves the key adjacencies that the superintendent has mentioned and are documented in the educational plan. This is a view of the cafeteria. You can see the cafeteria kind of on the right side. It's in the center of the building and it's a focal space for the building. It has natural light coming from above, which makes it bright, and light then pushes into the corridor spaces that wrap around it on the first and second floor. On the left side, you can see the media center. There are alcove windows there that allow students to grab a book and sit individually and read. A little bit further beyond in the rendering, you see full height glazing, and behind that is the creativity lab. So that's an extension of the media center that supports collaborative work. Different programs from the school can use that lab and can sort of check it out, if you will, to do work, project-based work in that space. Next slide. This is the view of the gymnasium. It's another double height space that visually connects the first and second floors. It's able to be divided, subdivided into multiple teaching spaces if you have a need to do that. It also has views out to the play fields, encouraging our PE classes to use the outdoor space and not just stay inside. Like the cafe, the gym is a community amenity. Includes a regulation basketball court with bleacher seating for around 200. Next slide. Here's a view of a breakout space in the kindergarten neighborhood. The corridor in the neighborhood widens up, and you create this alcove space in the corridor, which has a window to the courtyard. So this is a good space for small group instruction to come out of the classroom and use this space. If we go to the next slide, it's a view as if you walked through that window out to the courtyard. And so this courtyard has, I should first mention the turtle habitat. We understand that there are turtles that have been living in the Greylock courtyard here, and we would be relocating them to the new courtyard and creating a habitat for them. This is also a space that can be used by the kindergarten and pre-kindergarten neighborhoods, which have a real estate right on this space. Also, the media center and the music room have access to this space. So the first and second grade students in the building will also have an opportunity to use it through those programs. Next slide. This is a slide of the second floor plan. On the second floor, we have the first and second grade classroom neighborhoods, sort of in a U configuration around the upper portion of the cafe and gymnasium, which are two-story spaces. I'll point out that the classrooms in kindergarten, first and second grade are organized into pairs, as you see in the diagram kind of in the center top. And between each classroom is a small group instruction room. And this is a configuration that allows for the teacher to create zones in the classroom, which they're already doing, right? But often this results in a school like this, where one of those centers or zones of students, small groups of students, ends up out in the corridor. Have you ever seen that before? Students working in the corridor. Having this room, which is part of the classroom space, but is acoustically separated because it's a separate room, but is able to be visually monitored by the teacher because there's windows between it and the classroom, helps with that. because most teachers will tell you they don't really like sending the kids out in the corridor because the kids get distracted. They tend to want to do other things when they're out there. So that's an amenity that's designed into all of the classrooms. They're all set up in pairs like this for students over pre-K. So that's, next slide please. This is a view of a breakout space at the second floor. So this would be for second grade students, it could be also first grade students. And here we can point out that we have wonderful daylighting in this building. Here's a window that faces south and also has wonderful views up the mountain. And so this is a great opportunity to have this kind of space. It's much like the classrooms all along the south of the building that will have this light and view. Next slide. This is a view from Phelps Avenue. This is kind of what you'll see as you approach the building in a car from Phelps. And the building is masked so that it's a single story facing Phelps Avenue. And that's something we've done intentionally to bring down the scale of the building. We know Phelps is single-family residential houses, a little bit smaller scale buildings along Phelps. And so we wanted to make the building more neighbor-friendly in that way. Also, the inclusion of the pitched roofs to create a kind of gable roof effect, we feel connects it more with the scale and context of Phelps Avenue. So, okay, so I've gone through a brief walkthrough of how we're meeting the educational plan. I think it's a simple and compact, it's efficient building. Let's look at some of the metrics that come out of those decisions. The first is it's an energy efficient building, right? And the benefit to North Adams in that is that you'll save money from what you were paying for the utilities for this building. The new building will cost less for utilities than you're paying for this building. By about $110,000 a year, $60,000 a year. These are projections, but that's what we believe. And then over 30 years, if you multiply it by 30, you have another $3.3 million that if you could somehow squeeze 30 years out of this building, which you can't, it's going to need a lot of work to go much more. You would still pay that much in utilities, just paying for oil for this building and for electric. So that's one benefit to doing the project right there. It's more energy efficient and costs less to operate in terms of utilities. Next slide. Also, it's a compact building, which helps in terms of cost efficiency. This slide shows the 9, I believe they are, elementary schools in the MSBA pipeline with construction starts in 2025. So this is looking at all similar projects, but across the state, of course, but that are starting construction at the same year as the Greylock school. And we're looking at just that year because that way we have the same kind of escalation. Money costs the same at that point in time. And you can see that the North Adams Greylock project is the least expensive on a cost per square foot basis, which I think is due to its efficiency, its compactness. And so it's a good value for the city of North Adams, this project. Next slide. Okay, so then, well, nice to know, how much does it cost? And so here we start to go through that. The total cost of the new Greylock School project is $65.4 million. Of that cost, the state share is $42.2 million. And then there's another $3.6 million, which will come from energy incentives, leaving the resultant cost to North Adams, at $19.6 million, which is 30% of the total cost of the project. Next slide. We've also thought a little bit about this and what would happen if you just didn't do the project, right? If the vote ends up being negative. And that's essentially a decision to continue with the Brayton School instead of building the new Greylock School. The issue with that is there's a number of deferred maintenance projects that are latent in the Brayton School that are going to hit North Adams as it tries to operate that building as a school going forward. So we've estimated the cost to do those projects and come up with $45 million is the cost to the city to continue on with that school and address those needs. And of that cost, 100% of it would be paid by the city of North Adams. So there's a larger cost to North Adams to go that path. Next slide, please. And the other thing to consider about that path is that while you may be able to, or you would be able to, address the roof, which is at the end of its serviceable life and starting to leak and needs to be replaced, you'd be able to address that. And a number of other mechanical items that need to be addressed in the Brayton School. You wouldn't be able to address some of the issues which are inherent to the layout and the design of that school, its location. And some of those issues, which are particularly hard for an early childhood education, are the lack of natural light in many classrooms, the high cost of its energy use, the vertical circulation over 3 stories. You think of our youngest students having to go up and down to 3 floors. It's not ideal. And then the lack of site safety, circulation issues. Parking is an issue on that site. And there's really not much in terms of play areas. There is Brayton Park, but that's vertically 30 feet down, so it's not very practical to use Brayton Park as a play area. So we looked at that school for a number of different reasons, and those issues are hard to overcome, honestly. Okay, wrapping up. So this has been about 5 years since this project was first submitted to the MSBA. And 2 months ago, the MSBA committed the majority of the funding required for the project. But the MSBA's funding is, of course, contingent upon the city funding its share, which is what we're here to think about. It will be determined at the ballot on October 8th. If the vote is successful, the school will open 3 years later in the fall of 2027. If the vote is unsuccessful, the work completed with the MSBA will be lost, and the city will have to start over, and it will likely take another 7 to 10 years to get back to this point if you were to pursue a project with MSBA involvement. So that's important to consider. Go ahead.
I have a question. If you go back to the project cost slide, on that, if we have the Brayton, this building has been stopped being a school. There's a cost to demo this building. The demo cost has got to be in the millions. It's included in that 19, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So you could say it could be 50 million. I don't know, how much is it estimated for the cost?
You have a good point. There's, if you don't do this project, then yes, the cost to demo this building is going to hit North Adams as well. I can't remember, it's more than $1 million to demo and abate this building, which is where a lot of the cost is, right, the abatement. So it's a significant cost.
That's the question, would it be demolished?
It most likely would either be demolished or sold. Probably demolished because of the asbestos in the building.
And it wouldn't just sit here.
That's our big concern. We do not want it to just sit here, like Sullivan School. That's our main goal, that we would move it, whether it be through a demolition or a sale. But we're really hopeful that this is, we can get to the taxpayers that this is the appropriate place for our next new school. And if we don't take this opportunity now, we're not going to see it for a long, long time.
Talking about
tearing down a Brayton school?
No, so Brayton will remain, if this project is approved, Brayton will remain some type of educational facility, and/or we will look to alternate uses, which could include administration for the school or explore affordable housing in that area. But we don't know yet. We can't get there until we get through this process, because we need to use that building to house our existing students. But I don't want to be a mayor that has to maintain buildings that we're not using. So our plan is we want to repurpose it in some part of an educational facility, but the reality is we have to do repairs to Brayton. So it could be appropriate for administration and maybe some of our sub-programs, but a fully fledged operating school, from all of the research we've done. And remember, this process wasn't just Brayton versus Greylock. We had 8 or 9 different alternatives, a reno, a demo, an addition, a not addition. And the building committee spent a lot of time with the professional team vetting all of that. But to answer your question, our plan is to move all the buildings. We don't want vacant buildings on our roll.
One of my concerns is too, that school is what, maybe 20 years old, and it's already in that much need of repair. We're going to build another new school. What's this one going to be like in 20 years? Is this going to be new roof, new boiler, everything else? Or this one stood for 70 years? Granted, yeah, the boiler's in need of some other stuff, but this is still a pretty good building, I think.
Not according to the standard that the MSBA is placing upon us for what an appropriate educational facility is. We've invested in this building. I think in 95, 96, we put a new roof in. We've done some boiler work. It's just outlived its life. Unfortunately, it's been a good institution to many of you here, and you know we get that, but we need to provide a good institution for the next generation, the next 50 years.
And Brayton was completed in 1992, and so it's actually 30 years, which is just past warranty time.
Okay. 30 years is not really that old for a building.
Except that there are, you're right, but there are some things that are going to be high-ticket investments. HVAC would be one of them. It's a very inefficient system for the multi-story building that is there, shared with the former Y. It's also, excuse me, it's also, it had a new PVC membrane roof put on it, as the mayor said, late 90s, early 2000s. That we've now patched it as much as we can. We're at that point where it will need a new roof eventually.
If I may.
Yeah.
So I live really close to Coal Grove, which was redone in 2016, and I think it was a great project, and I'm very pleased that the city went forward with it. I wanted to become as informed as I could in regard to this project, and one of the first things I did was try and look at what student populations were going to be estimated to be. And I wanted to look at some place that would be a well-regarded source, such as the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. The Berkshire Regional Planning Commission in 2024 put out a study estimating that by 2035, North Adams will lose 41% of its K through 6 students.
From what starting date?
From now, from 2024.
From now until then?
Yes.
That's an interesting projection.
Yes.
They're all projections, right?
Right, but that is a neutral, independent party who has traditionally done such reports, if not yearly.
And one that I did, they're not the most recent, but the previous one was submitted to the MSBA as part of their consideration as well.
Sure, but the point I'm trying to make is that when I'm seeing only 10 years of data here, and it is going down, I understand that you said it levels off to an extent, but when there's an independent party who is taking care and is respected and has been quoted many times by local politicians for positive reasons, I'm just very concerned at 41% drop is when you consider the fact that that's only 9 points off of 50, and we have 2 schools that we're, only going to need, it really sets the stage for the question of whether we're not going to just need 1 school sometime then or a bit after. And, because I try and also be informed about Colgrove, we'll be paying for Colgrove until the 2040s. So the question that comes to my mind is, it doesn't seem, from what I've seen so far, well established that we will have the student population to support 2 schools to the point of paying off Colgrove in the 2040s and paying off the new school that you're proposing in the 2050s. So so
If I could just respond
to
that.
Of course, that's what I'd like to have.
So the projected enrollment, if you could go back to the slide of the 2 graphs.
Yeah, we can't see it.
That's why I'll explain. Not the data chart. I don't want you to strain your eyes, really. But the graph, that is total, a projection with regards to total enrollment. And that isn't not discredited or disavowed by this data, because if you notice, look at that green yellow line, excuse me, the second line there, right? That's our 7 through 12 population. We are going to continue to see a decline in 7 through 12 population. Where it levels off is the red line, which is our K through 6 population. So that is where, so again, there isn't a proposal here for a new high school, right? Because that wouldn't make sense, right? We're going to have capacity there, but we're not going to have capacity to house all of our elementary students in 1 school based on the MSBA projection, which they use to say, yes, we'll give you $42 million.
Sure. May I just say that the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission has no interest in what the MSBA does or what a city does or what a town does, other than having data that it's putting out that it feels is neutral and generally reliable that people can then make a decision against. So if we were to take the MSBA data at face value and also the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission at face value and say they're different, but we're taking both at face value and we're both assuming that they were honestly reached and that they were reached in a scientific method that, can be justified. At that point, though, if we still split the difference, we are still basically losing a ton of students by that time. So I think the point still stands that for an end date of the 2040s and 2050s to pay off the school, and when you show the 19.6, that's not what you pay interest on a 30-year loan, so you actually pay a lot more than 19.6, correct? Right. So this, to me, I still not seeing a justification that shows that we actually can reliably feel that we will have enough students to justify 2 schools by the time we're paying off these loans. And then just to throw out one other thing is that we all historically know in North Adams that we have not maintained buildings well. Case in point, just really quick, the public safety building, we threw a $500K roof on a building we want to get rid of. So that's just the other question is, are we going to have the money to maintain 2 newer schools versus just hobbling along with Brayton until we don't need Brayton and only need Colgrove?
So I'll just speak to the projection piece of this. Both of these are valid reports with regards to projections. What I was just trying to illustrate is that they're not necessarily in as much conflict as one would predict, because this was looking specifically at the pre-K through 6 population. We have other factors that impact our 7 through 12 high school population because we are a member district to McCann. We have Bart Charter School. Like, those are factors that do, in fact, impact our secondary enrollment.
But just to be clear, I
and
wasn't
so
even
what I'm
addressing.
saying is these 2 projections aren't necessarily in conflict with one another. One is just more specific to the elementary grade
No, the
projection.
Berkshire Regional Planning Commission has a chart broken out into K through 6.
Yeah,
So
I've seen the report.
Right, but you keep mentioning 7 through 12, I haven't even say anything about it, because I already know all of what you're saying. Bart, you know, McCann. So, but at issue are K through 6, or actually pre-K through 6 schools. So my point is simply that that's a projection going down, and Berkshire Regional Planning is even more for K through 6.
In their metric projection.
Yes, but you know, you got to rely on people who are doing studies, and if you look at both, they're still both going down.
I will just reiterate again that this is the projection that was used by the MSBA, by which their board approved an investment in North Adams of $42 million.
Sure.
So I would imagine, as gatekeepers of state funding, they're also feeling that their metric is reliable and valid.
Joe, we'll go back to you. We were just going to get these other questions, and then we'll go back to you, okay?
A thought that comes to mind as you're discussing the discrepancy between these two reports. If you think about why are we losing that population? Because as it is right now, we definitely cannot fit into one building. We're going to need another building for the short term. We can either limp along with what we have, or we can invest in something that can attract people and be a driving force to bring people into the town. That's a possibility as well.
Did Cole Grove drive a bunch of people into the town, though? I would say no. Just as a...
Cole Grove was one of 3 schools at the time, and now this would be streamlining down to sort of 2 flagship schools. And the grade reconfiguration is going to make a huge improvement in our ability to collaborate and meet the needs of the students on their grade level.
I think our greatest challenge in the city is for young families to be able to, afford to have good jobs, and that is the main driver, rather than whether the school is doing that. And I think Clarksburg, drawing away so many more amount of students, is the perfect example of a building not being the main thing, which is just the way it is. There's a ton of students that
In your opinion. Next, anybody? Okay, Mr. Smith, I'll go back to you. I didn't mean to cut you off, but go ahead. No, go ahead. Did you have anything else to say, or any other questions?
No, just that I think that it would be great if this was somehow delved into more, where there could be a little bit more detail, and maybe going out beyond 10 years, I think would be helpful for the community to, get an idea of more towards the 2040s and 2050s.
And in 2017, the school committee did have a contract with NESDEC, the New England School Development Council, to do a facility study and projection, which I also mentioned. So that is a third study that also has informed. Both of those were also submitted to the MSBA as part of the consideration.
And just, I'll just say real quick, I respect everything that you guys are doing. I respect Dick Alkenbright very much, and I know everyone has the best interests in heart, and I want to make sure I say that I'm not trying to be conflicting with anybody. The one thing I just will say about what you said before about the MSBA, part of what they want to do is they want to be doing projects all across the state. It's important for them to make sure rural communities are also having these projects. So they don't look at the finances of any city. I know this from Clarksburg, they don't. So it's just something to think about.
I'm going to defer to Tim to speak to the MSBA process. And
well, I won't defend the MSBA. I don't work for the MSBA. They're a state agency. There's a lot of need across the Commonwealth. They're looking to equitably distribute tax dollars to various communities. They're not going to dump it into a community where it's not wanted, number one. If you vote it down, then they'll move on. And they're not going to put the money into a community that doesn't need it just so they can say that they helped out with the Western Massachusetts. There's a definite need, and you can debate forward, looking forward, how many students will you prevent from leaving district because you have a new elementary school? Once they start school here, they make friends. They might be more likely to stay in the district. But as far as the MSBA and how they distribute their money, I'd say that that's. I would question your thought process on that.
Okay, Ms. West, did you have a question, or are you all set?
I honestly, I just want to know what the teachers have to say, because they're frontlining this. I would like to know what their challenges are and what their needs
Michelle, can you
feel
speak
to
that?
that.
Michelle, you were part of our visioning stakeholder
Yes.
group and contributed a lot, so.
Yep.
But I know that you probably have enough to keep us going.
I'll keep trying to keep
so
it
if you can keep it brief.
Yes. So I have been with North Adams for 9 years now. Yes, I'm a kindergarten teacher. I was here at Greylock. I will be at Brayton now. I've been with the district for 9 years. I was hired the year that I was hired at Sullivan and moved with them over that Christmas. The building that you're in really does impact the job that you can do. I mean, when you're working in a building that doesn't have good air circulation, COVID aside, on a normal hot day, that just sucks the energy out of everyone and makes it hard to do what we need to do. Being cold in the winter, not having a reliable furnace, these are all very real issues. Over at Brayton, there is a mold issue in the basement that I don't know if that was included in the figures of remediating if we were going to stay there, but that's a tough challenge. Beyond that, just the physical space of the building, I mean, we're working with littles over there, so we've got pre-K to second, and they really are on their own different floors. Part of the idea of reconfiguration of the grade levels was so that we could work more collaboratively as teachers and meet the students' grade level and developmental needs. So we were siloed in these 3 separate elementaries. It's going to be great to be together, but we're still kind of siloed on 3 different floors. That's difficult. The lack of common space, one of the slides that showed a little shared space between the rooms, that's huge because we're doing constant ongoing assessments of the kids. When you have to do that in the hallway with a parade of students walking up and down the hall, it doesn't give you an accurate picture of what your student may or may not know. It also provides space for, quieter conversations about social emotional needs. The building really does impact what we can and cannot do. And I know that jobs in the Berkshires are not booming, we don't have a lot to offer. However, a new school could make the difference between families deciding to live in North Adams or Adams, or Savoy, or one of the, even Cheshire, it could draw people to the area, and I could go on and on, but I will try to keep it short. Yeah.
Ms. West, did that answer your bid? Yes, ma'am.
I didn't quite hear all the numbers before, but we were talking about the population, the K-6 population going down by potentially 41%. At what time? Like how many years out from now?
It was 2035 that the.
2035. So I definitely get that point. I don't know how much we believe that, because there's still $45 million, I think, that it would take to keep Brayton limping along. It just, yeah.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Green?
When we talk about population, when I went to school here, there were 21,000 people in the city of North Adams, and there was 2,300 students. Now we're looking at probably 12,000 population and about 1,100 students. Part of the students that don't go to the school, there's maybe 200 to 300 that go to other than McCann. What this is not just a new school, this is the curriculum and redoing the grade level. Right now, up to this year, we had 4 schools. This will bring it down to 3 schools. You'll have the concentration of the resources in one building for pre-K through second. That's the way you should do it. And capacity-wise, and then you go to the next school, and then you go to the 3rd school. So if you look at, we don't do anything, this building is gone if we don't do anything 5, 10 years. Now we've got another elementary school that's empty. We've got Sullivan, we'll have this one, we had Johnson, we just scatter them all over town. This is 3 buildings, very streamlined with the curriculum as well as the physical building. as a teacher for 25 years, what this design is taking us into this century. This building is 70 years old. In the glass, it's not safe, it's not healthy. There's lots of problems. We have an opportunity of the state ponying up 80% of the money plus our regular state aid. They're paying more money than the taxpayers are. This will get us out of the hole. We'll have more people. As far as jobs, we have the hospital back. There are lots of high-paying jobs that are coming into North Adams. We have a lot of infrastructure going in. We have the flood chutes, the Army Corps of Engineers looking at $220,000. That's a lot of construction jobs and a lot of things going. This is the right time to do this because the window, when it falls, it'll be 2035 by the time they get around because they have to have the money in the state. They used to borrow at it, but it's there for us. We have such an opportunity here that they're going to replace a school for every student in North Adams pre-K to 2nd grade. It's an ideal situation.
I'll just say I pray that you're right. I hope and pray you're right. I just, my only position is that I want to try and get a little bit, for my own mind, a little bit more information around the population so that I have a better confidence that we won't be burdening future generations to pay for empty buildings. Because like a town like Heath, they had to close their school.
Well, that's what's going to happen just like down near the Dalton area with Cummington. That the surrounding hill towns will end up coming here. Clarksburg probably will end up coming here. You have to look at that.
We're not going to go down that road.
Yeah.
We have another question. Mr. Lamb.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to keep an eye on we glazed over.
Ben, can you come up, can you come up to the front of the owl?
Which one?
Oh, sorry.
I got my eyes on these.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
We've glazed over it a couple times in a few meetings, and I'm realizing we haven't really had like a true conversation. So in this theoretical world where population drops significantly, and I will say one thing, I love Berkshire Regional Planning. I think they're great. I work with them a ton. Our projections with Berkshire Regional Planning and others around regional population decline at the time of the 2010 census was about 100% more of what we actually saw in decline as a region. So they projected around a $5,000 person drop region-wide, and it was around 2,800 that we saw between 2010 and 2020. So I think it is important to realize that projections are projections for a reason. The other thing that I wanted to note is we talked about it and how, and this again, we talked loosely about how Colgrove, even if they all could fit in there capacity-wise, is not a school built for our youngest learners. And so I'm wondering if someone can touch on what are the qualities that make that building not great for that size child, but okay for the 3 to 6, and also how Brayton is also not great for that size child compared to older children that have historically gone there.
Thank you, Ben. I think that's a great point.
She's babysitting at your turn.
Maybe.
Ms. Casey can answer that question. I can add to that too.
Just the very nature of early childhood, it means that you are not only teaching the building blocks of academics, but you're doing social emotional work. You're very much working together, and the direction that the district would like to take is also to get more into collaborative project-based learning. Well, it's hard to do that when you're on separate floors, and you have to go down very steep stairs with little teeny tiny people, and they can't really help you carry these materials. It's an encumbrance, and the idea of this building when we talked about the idea of circulation. That's something that kind of clicks and resonates with teachers, but I don't know that other people would necessarily grasp. The idea of being able to move around the building and see each other and be a community is very important for early childhood.
The whole idea of having all of the services in those neighborhoods, the way that they're set up now, it's very difficult to do in the building such as Brayton, which is really designed more as like a traditional middle or high school, with long hallways and classrooms on either side. The bathrooms are set up for older children, so there's the toilet issue being a little bit too high for the little guys, and that idea that we are going 3 floors up and down to get to different classroom specialists to the cafeteria, to recess. One of the things that you don't think about is all of it. It does take a considerable amount of time to walk from the top floor of Brayton downstairs into the other end of the building to get to the cafeteria. That's all time that's lost during the day. And when you're doing that on multiple points during the day, it does get significant. And that doesn't even touch the fact that there are, 40% of the rooms don't have any real usable natural light coming into them because they're backed up against another building.
I just had a quick question about the physical layout of the building. I know you addressed the basketball courts. Are we going to lose the baseball field over here too, or what's going to happen with that?
So the plan for the baseball field is that we hope to, our plan is to rebuild the baseball field at Joe Wolf Field Complex. Kind of if you're facing the walking track on the right side of that. We've had conversations around with the Little League board, and they're excited about that to kind of get everyone under one complex down there. So that's our plan, and that's part of the project. So we hope to relocate the baseball field. And I say hope to because we got to build a school first. So whatever comes first. But we've had, I think, 2 meetings with the Little League, and they're receptive to that. And that would put everyone down at Joe Wolf Field, which is a beautiful field and that we want to showcase that whole complex. And then in addition to this plan, I just don't want to rush over it. I'm very sentimental about preserving the basketball court, providing more opportunities for pickleball over here, as well as the ATV kiosk. So we're trying to make it a community project as well as a school project.
I have a couple questions online. Why is the state only funding 65% of the project instead of the 80%?
Yeah, so the MSBA has a bunch of different metrics that they look at. It's 80% of eligible costs. There's a cap on what the construction cost per square foot for new construction is. That's your biggest area where you have costs that are not eligible for reimbursement. So the MSBA does have a space summary guideline, and Jesse and his team have tried to be very efficient and adhere to that guideline, and so we stick with the square foot that is eligible and not go over. But there's caps on the cost of site, caps on the cost of construction. There's the caps on what hazardous material within this building would be reimbursable and what isn't. There's limits on the contingency fund of what would be reimbursed. So if you do spend out of your contingency fund for a new building, it's only 1% of the construction cost. So there's a number of different things. So it is confusing to every district that we work with. You're 80% eligible community, but of eligible costs. So that's what's happened. That's a big difference of what's happened from when you did your last project, where your eligible costs were pretty close to your construction costs. The cost of construction has far outweighed the cost of what the state can help to reimburse with. So that gap has gotten wider and wider, and that's why there's a larger percentage of town cost on this project versus your previous projects.
And then one last question from our online viewers. How reliable is the geothermal heating in cases of extreme cold, and will it be difficult to get a repair technician in case of issues?
Who wants to speak to geothermal?
Well, I'll start off. I mean, it's geothermal is the energy that's basically coming from the constant temperature of the Earth is what is being used. So it's very efficient. It's very reliable. It is becoming more and more popular with the incentives that the federal government is putting out there. It makes it more attractive to a lot of different end users. And so therefore, there's going to be more and more companies installing it, more companies servicing it. So it's only going to increase from here. And it also helps to be green and energy and environmentally conscious.
Are there places that have the geothermal already in the Northeast that you're telling us this?
Yes, we've completed a number of schools in the last 5 years with geothermal systems, and our earliest school with geothermal is probably 15 years old now. They were way ahead and they went for it.
Where is that located?
All of our schools with geothermal are in Connecticut. So we have 3 in the town of Manchester and 1 in Bristol, Connecticut.
And the MSBA has funded 2 geothermal projects this recently. I don't know if those are the only 2, but recently that they focused on in a professional development offered through the Mass School Building Authority. I want to say Hopkinton, but don't quote me on that. I'd have to go back and check the PowerPoint. The other one was Smith College.
Yeah, Hopkinton was touring our school in Massachusetts to get a feel for the system, and they were interviewing the facilities group at that school. And they became comfortable enough to go ahead with it, which is a good sign. Go ahead. Yes, it will be LEED. I think we have LEED Silver as our goal right now.
And is there any monetary to that?
There is an incentive from the MSBA with additional incentive points, so 2 extra reimbursement points for achieving certain levels of green. I think they want it, well, I'm not sure if their goal is silver or it's just certification. But,
silver now, I think, but the 2 points exist, except we're already at 80% rate. So we can't go up above 80% by legislation, so it doesn't make a difference. But we also have the stretch code to comply with here. So a couple things. We still have to do LEED to receive the MSBA funding, though. So that's part of why we're doing it.
Sarah, I didn't have to hear that.
Oh, I was back on geothermal. I was wondering, is the North Adams Public Library is geothermal? I was wondering if this is a similar system or
no, it's
new from library?
From my understanding, it's different. I don't know the library system that well, but I've heard that it's an open source system. It's not an enclosed pipe. It's water going into an underground aquifer, and then over here you're taking water out. But we're proposing a closed pipe system. I think the library has had some troubles with that system, with getting the wrong temperature back out, if you will. It's short-circuiting. That's my limited knowledge of that system. Yeah.
It is kind of different.
Yeah, I've heard of some issues there, but I'm not totally sure I understand them fully. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. This is a great thing. I just wanted to thank the mayor, who's a good mayor, to bring this presentation for all the people so that we can make a decision and vote on it, and it's all inclusive. I thank everybody who came. And if kids are our future, let's really think about this, because the kids are our future. They should have the best schools, and they should have the best of everything. If they're going to pay 80% or 65%, what that gentleman just said, and you should pay 89 a month. This is for the kids, and this is a great city. The great city of North Adams. I'm proud to be in this great city of North Adams because I love North Adams. But all these kids deserve the best of everything. They should have the best air quality, the best seats. They shouldn't have asbestos like I see here. They shouldn't have all the stuff that I see, paint, chipping, which is not healthy. So I'm asking everybody, when they think about it, don't think about a couple dollars here and there. Think about that's your child. You want them to be, so they don't get asthma, allergies and sicknesses and colds, and they should not be cold when they're at school. They should be able to learn. They should be able to breathe right. They shouldn't have to miss days of school. So I'm asking everybody in North Adams to think about it when the vote comes up in October 8th. Please think about it. These are our future. North Adams, let's bring it forward together. And thank you, Mayor, and everybody up here, and our city councilors I see. Thank you, everybody. Oh, I got one more question. One question. So whether it's to the mayor of the city or to the gentleman from NBS, I might not know the term, but I want to know, how long is that 80% or 60% on the table before it goes away, or does North Adams have to pay a higher amount?
Right, so think about this. So the first MSBA project I was involved in was the renovation of Drury High School. I think we closed it out in the early 2000s, and what that means is that's when we got all of our funding. and that was 87%. That project was reimbursed.
So is there a deadline there?
Yes, so if we don't take advantage of this now and we go back to the table, our reimbursement rate could be different, it could be the same, but it's a crapshoot. When I came back to City Hall 3 years ago, I think I challenged the 80% rate. I'm like, how could we drop 7% in this short period of time? And unfortunately, our numbers, our population, our census data, all of that rolls into this big calculation to get to the 80%. So my biggest worry from the seat that I sit in is if we don't take advantage of this now, 7, 10 years from now, we may be a lower percentage or we could stay the same. I can't predict that. But from where I sit, if we don't start investing in our youth and in our education now, we're going to be that much further behind. I've been fortunate enough to, I got a great education here in North Adams, and I want to be sure that my job is to make sure that, the young boy sitting on the end, his kids get a good education here in North Adams. And it's not about a legacy for me or a legacy for Barbara or for TSPP or Colliers. It's really about doing what's the best interest of the community, and that's what you pay me to do.
So time is of the essence, and we have to step up, right?
Time is of the essence because the offer is only on the table till October 24th.
Okay,
if we don't meet our deadline, then the MSBA will say, yeah, it's off the table.
If you were to, if it was not to pass and you had to go through the process again, this whole period for the past 5 years of everything that you've spent to date is lost. So that would not be reimbursable the next time if you were to get back into the program some point further down the line.
That's what I wanted to know. That's what I was worried about, because I don't see a lot of people here tonight. We all have concerns. We have a voting day. We should show up and make sure, think about it, make the right decision then.
So, and I want to just talk a little bit about the process. So, one thing that, Joe, to speak to a little bit to your concern about population, we talked a lot about what were our future schools going to look like, what was our enrollment, and that really drove the conversation for grade span schools. Everybody thinks that the project forced grade span schools, but our population and our enrollment made us hit pause. So we went to the MSBA and we said, look, we really want to look at our educational structure before we ask you for all this money. And they let us hit pause, and I have to say this group and all of the people who worked on the educational visioning, we really worked a lot of hours. I think I booked 72 meetings for just this project. And what it did was, it made the MSBA say, good job, North Adams, right? They're like, thank you for thinking into the future. And then once we decided on grade span schools, poor Jesse has done 100 different configurations of what our plan should be. And if I'm not kidding when I tell you, like the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, we should have been cooking potatoes. We were all online talking about what does our grade configuration look like and what fits for the future of North Adams. So this isn't just about closing a school or hurting a neighborhood. This is about the long-term goals. The kids running around out there. Where are they going to be when they're in high school? Where are their kids going to go to school? And it's so important just to remember that the decisions we make today will impact us for the next 30 to 50 years. Most of us in this room won't be here. But if we don't make the right decision today, we're really shortchanging the kids. And one thing I pride myself on, even though I don't have biological children, is education. And we need to provide the best, not only for our staff, but for our kids. So, people, for me, they're like, you're raising our taxes and you said you wouldn't. I said, no, I said I was going to keep North Adams affordable. And I said I was going to focus on education. And this is part of it. And honestly, folks, we've got to make this vote go, because we're not going to have an opportunity for a very long time.
So what kind of marketing is going to happen from here to whenever the voting is in October?
Yeah.
So people can make an informed decision and have all of the facts.
Yeah, excellent question. So in addition to this meeting on August 22nd at 6 p.m., we're going to have a similar meeting at Brayton School, and we're going to talk about what's going to go on there in the short term. We have been on the TV station. We have an extensive website on the North Adams Public Schools website. If you go to the front landing page, there's a Greylock School project page that has all of our meetings, all of our minutes, has our videos, has the TV show, our council meeting. We have an FAQ, and then there's just us. If you have a question, or say you want to host a coffee hour in your neighborhood and invite us to come out, our job is to get this project over the finish line. So we have this meeting, the 22nd, and then we're going to be looking for the public to really help us get the word out. We may do when schools are back, we'll do more informational sessions. But we've been working on this project, and I'm thrilled to see all of you tonight. We had a little bet going as how many people would we attract, but we've been working on this for so long. We need you, the people, to help us tell the story.
I think one of the questions that I hear a lot is, how much is it going to cost the taxpayer?
Yep.
And I think that's...
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what we didn't hear tonight.
Yep, I was waiting to the end. Yep, no, I was waiting to the end, the doom and gloom lady I get called.
And in case you don't remember what the mayor said, it is on our webpage, under the FAQs.
Yeah. So,
you have it.
let's
An older generation is not going to be looking at that.
Right. So let's talk about that a little bit. So how this project is going to be financed is, in the beginning, it's going to be what we call tiered financing. So in the beginning, we're only going to borrow the money that we need, and then we're going to, pay it as we are. So we're going to issue what we call general obligation notes. So we'll probably issue about 3 of those over the life of the project. And then we get audited from the MSBA, and then we bond it. It goes to long-term debt, so that's where the 30-year kicks in. So it's going to be a tiered approach on the tax base. So what we know now, the largest impact, if everything stays equal, will be $270, which equates to 74 cents a day, at the highest peak. So in the beginning, you'll see a small impact. I think on the scale it starts at $139, and then it creeps up kind of in the middle to this $270, and then as we pay debt and interest off, it goes down. So it's going to be tiered financing. When we break ground, we're not borrowing $20 million. We're only borrowing what we need to get through probably a year's worth of construction, or half a year's construction, and then we're going to issue another bond. It's my favorite topic, so. But if all things stayed equal, when I say that, as all of you might know, the tax rate is based on the value of your houses, which is dictated by the market data, the sales data. We don't control that. The market controls that. So what we know today, keeping all of our values equal, the maximum impact will be probably 3 or 4 years in at $270. So when you get your tax bill next January, you're not going to feel the impact of this project yet. So we're going to do short-term borrowings, they're called general obligations, for the first couple months of the project, and then take it to long-term debt. Everything that we do is closely monitored. And getting back to your question, the elderly are concerned. I get that. I'm a single person and I pay for my house myself, but this is an investment in us. And it's one of the biggest investments that you can see, you can touch, and you can feel. Who wants to spend $20 million on water or sewer pipes? It's not a sexy project. This is a project that not only will help our youth, but will help our community, because we're very focused on having this be a community school with adequate space for speakers and other plays and things like that. And a place that has maybe some air conditioning or cooling, because it's awful hot in here. I don't know if you asked that question, or Michelle, you asked that question. Do you have any, are you?
Well, yeah, we have an aging population in this community, and a lot of them don't have computers, so they're not going to go on the website and see all these facts. How do we get
that's why we went into the TV station. This whole team went into the TV station, and we recorded this whole presentation along with a panel of our school building committee, and we had kind of a general dialogue like we did tonight. So that is on the local access TV, It's also on our website at the school, but like you said, you know, some of the elderly people, you'd be surprised how many of them go to our website, but it is on local access, and we're trying to get through August, and then we may go into the station again in September. But all of our meetings are public. But I say to people, if you have a question, call us. We try to be as responsive as we can. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just thinking about the shared spaces and the proposed new building that...
Before we go into that, can I just, did we answer the tax question, everybody? I'm sorry, you asked it. I'm like,
no, it's just a lot of my neighbors are asking it.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, but if you want to host a coffee hour or a lemonade hour, we'll be happy to take the show on the road.
What's the estimate per thousand? How many, is it 74 cents per thousand? Is that the...
An average household. The average household is estimated to go up at the maximum of $270.
And what's the value of the house?
The estimated value is average home $206,000. Yep. So at its peak, I should have brought my glasses. You can tell I turned 50. At its peak, with the highest amount, you always save me time. At its peak, the highest is $270. And then it tears off because as we're borrowing, we're still paying the interest and some principal payment.
So that's like $1.25 a thousand?
Yes. 68, yes.
You took a picture of
the
other day. People will spend $16 a day for a pack of cigarettes, but they won't pay for
Well, let's pack of cigarettes, you're all set, don't you?
All right, we're not going to tell people how to run your lives. Just vote yes on October 8th. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just thinking about for older residents who might not know why. Not that you wouldn't care about the children in your community, but they don't have as much of an immediate investment in it. Would the community parts of the school be open to other community groups to come and use it in the evening?
I hope so. That basketball court is huge.
That is a good selling point, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, Counselor Fitch, I am so sorry.
No, quite all right.
Let me see if I can see you.
Back to the point about people who aren't as excited about the vision of the school. Like, I'm really excited about the vision of the school. I think this is a no-brainer just for that reason alone, the investment aspect. But the cost aspect and the impact on taxpayers, I love, Mayor Maxey, that you brought up the idea that you want to keep the city affordable. Am I correct in saying that we're spending the $19.6 million so we don't have to pay $45 million, so we're saving $25.4 million, something like that? I don't know the breakdown for the tax dollars that we have to spend on that $45 million, but am I correct in saying it might be twice the payment that we're going to incur for this?
It very well could be. The issue is if we want to keep up to our standard of education that we're held accountable by DESE, we have to improve Brayton if we're going to continue to occupy it. Just like if we were to stay here, just the windows, the furnace, we were just talking about it, we're not going to miss those 2 a.m. text messages, do we have heat or don't we? Right. We looked at 8 or 9 different options, whether it be a renovation, a new build, an addition, and really the committee spent a lot of time, and this team right here got put through the ringer about what was the best option for us in the long term. And I feel bad for those people who have 2 kids and they're going to be in different schools right now, but that's kind of life, unfortunately, and we're doing everything possible to adjust, bus schedules and accommodate different people, but the reality is we had to make the decision because of our declining enrollment, and we would be darn fools if we went on and said, oh, we're going to build another K-6 school. So that's why, we really dug deep and we looked at the long term.
If I could just add to that, Mayor, we've had families over the past few years that have had kids in all 4 of our buildings. So this isn't a new situation. This actually makes it a lot smoother for families that have children who require specialized programming. Their children won't need to be in a building that's on the other side of the city. They'll be able to remain with their peers. And that's something we couldn't offer to them in previous years.
what you were saying about, or somebody was saying about the, what do we say to people when they come to us about the cost and everything? You know, what I've been saying to people is, well, guess what we'll have to spend if we don't do this right now? So, you know, that's where maybe worth bringing up. Yeah, well.
And I know, you know, sometimes people find this hard to believe, but I meet with probably 5 to 6 developers every month. And I say we do the dog and pony show selling North Adams. And one of the first questions they ask is, what do your schools look like? What's your configuration? And just to share that we have this new building project, their eyes light up and they're like, wow, you're serious about education. And a lot of them say we need that to attract employees and to keep employees here. And it is an economic development tool, believe it or not. Some people are like, yeah, that's, you know, I won't say what they say. But
Greylock is a good example. The next town over. Right?
Yeah.
Of what you have, what they have,
right,
and what they draw.
Right. But again, you know, it's a decision that we're making today. The impact will be gradual, and it's an impact that's going to sustain us for the next 30 to 50 years. I went to E-School. My sister, who's here tonight, bounced back and forth between St. Joe, Freeman. We got some Mark Hopkins folks in the audience. You know, we all loved our neighborhood schools. And this is another neighborhood school. I know it was a big discussion about Cove Grove. Cove Grove is a neighborhood, right? It's a neighborhood school. And our focus is on just preserving our educational structure and making sure it sustains for the future. I just want to go to Councilor Sapienza, and then Joe, I'll go back to you.
Yes. I just want to say I'm very excited about this project. I was proud to be part of the City Council to make the decision and move this forward, so now we're out at a public vote. I believe that any community, the foundation of any good community is our children, and a good education builds that foundation nice and strong. As us, the population, we all, as we get older, we're going to need doctors, we're going to need services, we're going to need bankers, we're going to need insurance people, and the younger people are going to be those people that are going to be doing these jobs. And with a good, solid foundation in education and a good state-of-the-art facility, for lack of a better term, that's what we need. And I'm really excited to see this project, and I hope that everybody, I'm a taxpayer myself. Yes, my taxes will be impacted like everybody else's, and I'm going to vote for this, so I ask everybody to support this project wholeheartedly. Thank you.
All I wanted to say was I wanted to thank you all for the information session, for all the dedication and time you spent, and for, you know, being willing to answer questions that might, you know, be tough off the cuff. So I want to thank you for that. I just wanted to, I just wanted to thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for participating tonight. I have one more question, reverse psychology here. Going back to Mrs. Lavori's question. How do you think we can get into more homes, into more people?
Have the people with children bake stuff and bring it to them. Stop running to school.
Send out some mailers like you.
A mailer.
Yeah, I like a mailer.
A mailer.
If anyone is interested in hosting a neighborhood meeting, please contact myself or Superintendent Melkus. Like we said, we're willing to stand here all night if that means we're going to get a yes vote. Well, maybe not you, Barbara, but I'm going to stay.
Is that something we could do more frequently at Brayton after school, since we'll have kids there anyway?
Yeah, so
Maybe we
I
could have
mean,
once
we get everybody back, you know, we'll start targeting, to be honest with you, start targeting parents and educating more. But our focus right now is to get the word out, get school back open, get everybody settled, because we've got a lot of changes going on.
Well, that's a parent night. Wouldn't it be a good idea to, on parent night, do a capsule of this is what we plan for your kids?
Yeah.
And then you got 1,000 people out there talking about this is what they want to do.
We are going to be hosting the morning coffee at Parklet on August 23rd. And so one way you could get people to be more informed about this project is to bring somebody to Parkland to have coffee and to ask questions. Last night we were at Downtown Celebration and I was happy to answer questions for folks. That's what we are here for, is to answer your questions so that you can make an informed choice for yourself.
One thing that we gotta.
2 minutes, you can just correct. Sorry,
I've known for a long time. One thing we got to think about is we shouldn't say that the taxes are increasing. This is the piece of taxes for this part of the school system. It doesn't mean it's over and above. This is a piece of that. You know, it's within it. That's what we need to operate this new curriculum, the new school. It's the piece, because we're moving from 4 schools to 3. The administrative cost, the heating cost, things are dropping like crazy. And you got to offset it with, geez, we're saving $2 million. Oh, we're spending $1 million. We're still netting lower costs. So we have to think about, we're moving forward. It's kind of like buying the new car kind of thing. And if this was a $65,000 car and someone says, I'll give it to you for $19,000, you'd buy the car right away. It's going to last 50 years.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Hearing none. Superintendent?
Thank you everyone for your attention this evening. 2 hours is a long time to be sitting, but thank you.